Yes.
Fully, clearly. And see you too.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
So good evening and welcome. Good evening and welcome everyone. I welcome you on behalf of IACC East India Council for this very important webinar that we are hosting today on the subject of renewables and its effect on climate change, which is a rather interesting and very, very pertinent topic standing as of today. While we explored this topic with a very, very gorgeous and glittering panel of speakers today, we will also be exploring the topic of the emerging possibilities of the technical collaborations and business tie-ups on this front. And we will see how the technology can be developed and the market can be explored for the benefit of both the entrepreneurs and manufacturers alike, so that going ahead, we can make a difference and we can see how we can work towards the reduction of the emissions and help towards lowering global warming in our own little way. So welcome you all. And on behalf of our committee today, we will have Dr. Sujoy Biswas, who's the Vice President of Eastern India Council of IACC. And he is also the CEO and Director of Techno India, one of the largest educational institutes in the country today. So without further ado, because we are already a little late on time, I welcome you all and I request Dr. Biswas to please give the opening remarks before we proceed to our next speakers. Dr. Biswas, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Zarina. Thank you for the lovely introduction. Good evening to all. Welcome to the webinar on the potential for Indo-US collaboration on renewable technology and manufacture to mitigate global warming. In this webinar today, we will listen to Ms. Cherlyn Haidinger, President at Texas Space Academy and ED at Keeping Pace in Texas, Senator Dr. P.K.C. Bose, Vice Chairman and Managing Director at Enricon Wind Energy Private Limited, Dr. David Gilham, PhD, CCP, Second Climate Risk Energy Resilience Research, Houston Advanced Research Center, or HARC, Dr. Jyotirmoy Rai, CEO, Green Eco Solar London. The keynote address will be given by Dr. S. Pinker, Chairman, Renewable Energy College and Visiting Professor, School of Advanced Materials, Green Energy and Sensor Systems, Kolkata. He has been in charge. I had personally known him for a number of decades, has been in charge of the solar stuff for the government of West Bengal for a very long time. Mr. Kapil Kaul, our National President of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, will deliver the inaugural remarks. The session will be moderated by Mr. Sidney Lobo, Executive Director, Future Stations Advisors, LLP. The vote of thanks will be given by Mr. R.K. Chhajar, Regional Vice President, Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, Eastern Council. Before we commence, I would like to mention that during the April 2021 Leaders Climate Summit, President Biden and Prime Minister Modi announced a new high-level US-India Climate and Clean Energy Agenda 2030 partnership to accelerate progress towards shared climate and clean energy goals. The Agenda 2030 partnership includes two tracks of engagement. One, the Strategic Clean Energy Partnership, or the SCEP, and second, the Climate Action and Finance Mobilization Dialogue. The US-India SCEP builds upon a long-standing bilateral energy dialogue focused on energy security and innovation. The revitalized SCEP will continue to advance energy security and innovation with greater emphasis on electrification and decarbonization of process and end uses, scaling up emerging clean energy technologies, finding solutions for hard to decarbonize sectors, and deploying technical solutions. Engagement with the private sector and other stakeholders remains a priority to facilitate rapid technology deployment and create economic opportunities both for the countries of US and India. The US Department of Energy and India's Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas led overall engagement under the SCP with robust integracy engagement on both sides. The Indian Prime Minister, along with other world leaders, has made several commitments to the reduction of emissions in the recently concluded COP26 conference. Therefore, it is only fitting that two of the most representative democracies should come forward to mitigate the growing threat to humankind, with US companies in the forefront of technology development and India offering an enormous growing market. Moreover, Indian entrepreneurs and manufacturers would greatly benefit from the inputs of American technology. This would bring, I hope, today's event and a broad, best, and meaningful highlight the vast potential in renewable and its effects on climate change, also exploring the emerging possibilities of technical collaborations and business tie-ups between Indian and American stakeholders. Before I call Mr. Kapil Kaul, our National President IIC, to deliver the inaugural remarks, I would like to acknowledge the contribution of the following individuals for whom this webinar has been made possible. First is my president, my boss, Mr. Anup Acharya, the president of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, Eastern India Council, who has given me the charge of giving the welcome address. He was supposed to give the welcome address, but in his absence, he has given the honor to me. Mr. Somnath Bhattacharjee from Shalimar Chemical Works, Mr. R.K. Jajjar from Vikrant Forge Private Limited, Ms. Zarina Mukherjee for all her coordinations, Ms. Lakshmi Sri Rai for bringing both the sponsorship and coordinating. All mails from everybody has been done by Zarina herself. Dr. Arun Ghosh, in the American Chamber of Eastern India Council committee member, and all others who have contributed for arranging the event. Over to you, Zarina, for giving the podium to Mr. Kapil Kaul for his inaugural remarks. Hope we have a lovely session. I'm sure and wish and pray that this is one of the best sessions that Indo-American Chamber of Commerce have ever dealt with. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Viswas. That was indeed a delightful welcome remarks. Now I would request our National President, Mr. Kapil Kaul, who is also advisor of Rasoi Group in India. And I would request Mr. Kaul to kindly give the inaugural remarks before we proceed to the keynote address. And before I do that, I would want to give you all a brief introduction to our session moderator who will be taking over from me after Mr. Kaul's speech. He is Mr. Sidney Lobo, the Executive Director of Future Station Advisors. They deal largely with a lot of green energy work. A little bit about Mr. Lobo, I would want to say. He is the former Chief of Business Collaboration and Clean Technology and Applied Research at the Tata Power Company Limited, with over 25 years experience in the energy sector alone. He has piloted and demonstrated next generation technologies like fuel cell, in situ hydrogen generation, AI and ML application for load predictions, gasification, pyrolysis, distributed generation, waste to energy, etc. He is presently the board member at Sardar Patel Renewable Energy Research Institute in India, the techno-economic viability of new technologies, and filed 3 patents in development of new technology. Mr. Lobo is a BE Civil from Mumbai University and an MS in Environmental Engineering from the University of Kansas, USA. So without much further ado, I thank you earnestly, Mr. Lobo, for coming on board as our session moderator at such short notice. And I would pass on the podium to our National President, Mr. Kapil Kaul, our umbrella really, who has been inspiring us to go forward for sustainable and has been the driving force for all of us to move forward and look for programs and subjects exploring to actually educate the audience on the importance of environment, ecology, and sustainability. So Mr. Kaul, I welcome you and I request you, sir, to please give us the inaugural remarks.
Thank you. Thank you, Zarina. Good morning, everybody across the seas, and good evening to everybody here in India. I hope I am loud and clear to everybody.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Welcome to you all. I'm very grateful for all the eminent panelists from the world over and from the US to come to attend this this session, which is very critical. In my presidential year, this year, I took it upon myself to make environment the key theme going forward, not just this year, but even going forward for the coming years, because environment and climate change is the elephant in the room, in everyone's room. And the pandemic has brought in the future into our own bedrooms right now. There is a logo which I designed and put on called E3. It's there on our website and all our promote literature, which essentially means taking care of and conserving the energy, conserving ecology, and conserving the environment, the 3 E's. And everything revolves around this. And in particular, what I can see is that the biggest issue in the world today is waste management. It's creating all the pollution, and the principal cause of this waste is crude oil and its derivatives. We have to stop crude oil and its derivatives. We have to look for alternate energy. We have to clean up our act, because for the moment, until now, since real estate and property is very much thought of as an asset class and something that you own, what we all forget is that we might buy land, we might buy a property or a flat or whatever, but in essence, we don't own it. We are tenants on this planet, and the only person who owns this planet is Mother Nature, nobody else. And we've got to live in a comfort zone with her. We also have to realize that the earlier civilizations, whether they were the Mayan civilization, whether the Mesopotamian, or whether the Mohenjo-daro, Aztec civilization, all these civilizations were located in different parts of this planet. And they all got wiped out mainly because of lack of resources, that is water. They didn't have other problems. The problem that we have today is that this civilization is a global civilization. And we cannot afford to neglect nature. We can't afford to neglect the environment. However, the good part is that we have technology on our side. We have quantum computing on our side. We have awareness on our side. And I think the pandemic is Mother Nature wrapping us on our knuckles like a teacher does when you are truant as a child, and telling us, wake up and get your act together. You won't get a second chance. And I believe that the world is listening. And I do hope that entities like ours, chambers like ours, institutions and people raise our voices, educate the masses, and get our act together and get it fast, really fast. It's possible. From the chamber, I'm also driving an initiative with the US entities and government to bring in drone logistics to replace conventional transportation. It's a bit far-sighted at the moment, but it's doable. The technology is available. It can be expensive at the beginning, but in essence, what it means is that any roadway or highway is the arteries of any country or nation for driving the economy, and it is essential. However, those vehicles that ply have to be converted to renewable energy sources, and more so, when a vehicle is stuck on the road, it's where the road goes, and building a road is expensive, it's polluting, using it is polluting, getting the concrete, getting bricks or whatever is polluting. Maintenance is very expensive, and the car or the trucks or the buses can only ply where the road takes you. However, drones, when put into use, which I'm quite sure that within a couple of years they can. Already you have a company in the US known as Elroy that manufactures drones that go up to about 400 miles at a stretch, and they carry 500 pounds weight. These sort of things can be converted to 1-ton or 2-ton trucks. You don't need a road. It compresses the time to reach a particular place. And it also compresses the fact, it doesn't need the kind of slow speeds that we have on the highways of 40, 50 kilometers. So in countries like India, where vehicles are very much part, and any other country, replacing them with drones can help us a long way to keep the economy going and at the same time keep us in compliance with the planet. With these initiatives and with these kind of discussions and these seminars, I do hope that we can achieve our goals as quickly as possible for us to make ourselves a viable civilization on this planet and not get extinguished. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kaul. Thank you so much. That was really very nicely put. I would now request Mr. Sidney Lobo. I have already given a brief introduction of you, sir. If you can just take on the show now and invite our respective speakers who've been waiting for quite a while, and let's get the show rolling. So all the best and welcome you all once again.
Thanks, Zarina, and thanks to all the participants who are on this webinar, as well as the audience that's going to be listening to some of the expert speakers. So without spending too much time, let me kind of introduce our keynote speaker. That's Dr. S.P. Chaudhary. Dr. Chaudhary is an electrical engineer from Jadavpur University who has more than about 27 years of experience in the renewable energy space. He's been working in the academic and professional space with government bodies, energy development institutes, and has become a renowned person with outstanding contribution to the growth of renewable energy in India. Dr. Chaudhary has been working with governments of the Tripura state as well as with West Bengal Green Energy Development Corporation, which is a part of the government of West Bengal. Besides being a professor, besides being an adjunct professor at Bengal Engineering and Science University, he's also the chairman of a number of institutes like the Ashton India Renewable Energy Collective. He's the chairman of the NB Institute of Rural Technology. And in promoting sustainable energy development, through numerous published scholarly articles for his leadership on the subject in international forums and conferences, Dr. Chaudhary has been awarded a number of international and national awards, including the Ashton Award for Sustainable Energy from the Ashton Award Trust. And as I said, he's been working with the governments in promoting renewable energy and continues to do so with the governments of Tripura as well as West Bengal. So without spending too much time, I will hand over the platform to Professor Chaudhary to give the keynote address. Professor Chaudhary?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lobo, for introducing me. I also thank the organizer, especially Ms. Zarina, Ms. Lakshmi, for inviting me in this particular occasion, which is very important webinar, I think, for Indo-US relation. And to promote sustainable energy, which was the topic for the Glasgow Convention, where India has a given a big commitment. So I thought, since I am from the government side, I should tell how India is doing in solar energy sector and what are the programs which are being implemented in the country to achieve the target of National Solar Mission or whatever target our Prime Minister has fixed up in the COP26. So various programs of the government, so particularly in the sector of solar energy, I'll be speaking on. I'll just touch on because time is very short. I'll touch on, and then I will also tell where we have some weakness and where we need collaboration from our US friends. First slide. Second. Next. For a country blessed with abundant sunshine, it was only the matter of time that solar would be harnessed for clean energy and power. In India, in just a decade, the solar sector has grown by leaps and bounds. In India, solar energy was only a little bit. We started the program in real sense in 2008-9. Before that, we were only doing off-grid programs, but in 2008-9, we have started the main solar energy program, and in last 10-12 years, we have achieved a lot. We have achieved almost 100 gigawatt of solar power. 50 gigawatt already we have achieved, and 50 gigawatt is in the pipeline. So India is doing very good in the sector of solar energy. Globally, India ranks 4th when it comes to utilization of solar power. With an installed capacity nearly, as I have mentioned, 50,000 megawatt. The aim is to achieve 100 gigawatt worth of solar energy by the end of 2022, and 300 gigawatt as committed by our Prime Minister by 2030, which is a big target, and where a lot of challenges are there, and we need a lot of collaborative efforts with the US partners, to achieve the 300 gigawatt target. Next. according to the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, in India, MNRE, we have a separate ministry who looks after the renewable energy program. We have about 5,000 trillion kilowatt hour per energy is available over India's land area, and which is available, most part receiving 4 to 7 kilowatt hour per square meter per day. From an energy security perspective, solar is also most secure of all sources, as is abundantly available in India. Theoretically, small fraction of total incident solar energy can meet the entire country's power requirement. Now, as I have mentioned, we have done a lot of things in decentralized solar energy up to 2007, 2008. We started the program in 1990, and for 20 years, we have electrified a number of remote villages of the country with solar power. And the tribal people, the backward people, the backward community, the remote area people, they have been immensely benefited with the solar energy program. But over the years, the solar energy sector in India has emerged as a significant player in the grid-connected power generation capacity also. And nowadays, we are in India, we are concentrating on grid-connected solar power plant and how we achieve the 100 gigawatt target. I will start with that, our national program. And the target is very high, 100 gigawatt by the year 2022, this year end. And by 2030, 300 gigawatt, which is very big target, and to we have kept the target to achieve the our emission target. We are fixed up to reduce the emission target so that it matches with the solar energy program. Next one. Program National Solar Mission is the first program of National Climate Action Plan. This is the mission number 1. Under which, the objective of National Solar Mission is significantly to increase the share of solar energy in the total energy mix. India is a tropical country where sunshine is available for long hours per day and in great intensity. So solar energy therefore has great potential as future energy source. And under launching on January 2010, the National Solar Mission is a major initiative of Government of India, which we are implementing now with the various state governments, various public sector undertaking, various NGOs, institutions, and other organizations, so that we can achieve our national target, which is 100 gigawatt 100 gigawatt target by the year 2022, end of 2022. Next one. This is also in line with the INDC's target to achieve about 40% cumulative electric power installed capacity from non-fossil fuel-based energy resources, and to reduce emission intensity, as I have mentioned, by 33% from 2005 level by 2030. India has already achieved more than 50,000 megawatt of solar power. 37,000 of solar power is in the pipeline and likely to be commissioned very shortly. One estimate shows India has the potential to produce as much as 900 gigawatt of renewable energy power from commercially exploitable sources, and much of it from solar energy. Obviously, solar energy is the most popular renewable energy source in India and wherever in the whole world. And I think solar energy is the most popular thing. India's power demand hit 184 gigawatt by 2021, and estimates suggest that demand will rise to 295 gigawatt by the end of 2022 this year, and 690 gigawatt by 2030. So out of 690 gigawatt, we are targeting 300 gigawatt should come from solar. Almost 50% power by 2030 should install capacity should come from solar. Next one. This is National Solar Mission program, as I have mentioned. Now India has a major program. Now India is one agricultural country. We have number of solar pumps for irrigation, and we have a major program now for irrigation purpose, solar pumping program for irrigation and drinking water purpose. Under PM Kusum program of the Prime Minister, the scheme, we are aiming to install new standalone solar pumps in off-grid areas. Wherever farmers are there, they can install solar pump, and in on-grid areas also they can install solar pump, and they can also export that is the uniqueness of this program. They can export the surplus power when they don't need power from the solar pump, that they don't need water they can export power to the grid and they can earn money. Very unique program. 15 lakhs, 1.5 million solar grid connected pumps shall be installed under this program, and it will be enhancing the capacity of solar power installed capacity by 25 gigawatt by the end of next 2 to 3 years time. Next one, please. Ajay Jyoti Yojana, it's another important program in India going on. Solar LED lights are being installed in rural areas, semi-urban areas and urban areas. About 2 lakhs solar LED lights have been installed under this scheme, and ministry is also implementing a scheme for 7 million solar study lamps, which aims to provide rural students with high quality and affordable clean lights. So all these programs are adding to the target, whatever target we have fixed up for the solar energy program of the country. So all these programs are major programs, and these programs are helping the people of the country in a big way, and also at the same time it is serving twin purpose. It is helping the people of remote areas. At the same time, it is also reducing the emission, which is the commitment of the country to the whole world. Next one. CPSU scheme, Central Public Sector they have taken up a major program. They are going to install 12,000 megawatt of grid connected solar power. This 12,000 megawatt projects will be produced by the government to produce with the viability gap funding. This is a viability gap funding program. This is also a very unique program in the country. Solar Park is a major program launched by Government of India, where the entire infrastructure, the solar park is essentially a concentrated solar zone of development of solar power generation projects, and provide developers in an area, whoever the US entrepreneur or the Indian entrepreneur, they can come and join in this program. The infrastructure is created by the government, the land is given by the government, the substation, the water, all the infrastructures are given by the government, readily available. Only the developers are to put up the solar power, install the solar power with latest technology, state of art, and they have to export power to the grid. The grid is also available for them. This is also a very unique program launched in the country, and the program is very popular, which is called Solar Park program of the country. Next one. Another program we have, major initiative the Government of India has taken up, land neutral solar power projects, because India has shortage of land. India is agricultural country now. Basically, we have agricultural land. If we want to achieve the target of 300 gigawatt of solar power, then there will be shortage of land. So obviously, India has a lot of water bodies. And in the water bodies, we can go for floating solar power plant or the canal top solar power plant, canal bank solar power plant. So these are all called land neutral solar power plant. India has launched a major program on that. Already we have achieved 100 megawatt of solar power in the land neutral mode, and we are going to install 500 megawatt of solar power in the in this type of floating solar or the canal top or the canal bank scheme. So this is another important and very unique scheme India has launched in the first time in this part of the world. Next one. Rooftop solar is becoming very popular. A solar photovoltaic system mounted on a rooftop of the building can export power to the grid or generate the consumer's own requirement. Under National Solar Mission, we are going to install 40,000 megawatt of rooftop solar power plant, and anyone can install to reduce their electricity bill. That is very important. If you want to reduce your electricity bill, just go to your roof and install a 5 kilowatt or 10 kilowatt small rooftop power plant in your roof, connect it with the grid. Your electricity bill will be reduced by 50%, 60%, up to 90% reduction. So this rooftop solar power plant program is also very popular program, and it is a really people's program now. The residential sectors are coming up in a big way to set up rooftop solar power plant program. It's a major power plant program under the National Solar Mission. So we are now we have fixed up a target of 40,000 megawatt of rooftop solar power plant, and we are pretty sure to achieve the target. Next one. COP26 India's commitment. India has installed renewable energy has just crossed, as I have mentioned, 100 gigawatt, and the country is on the top track to meet its 175 gigawatt target under the Paris Climate Accord. The 300 megawatt or 500 megawatt, whatever our Prime Minister has declared, most of India's emission come from coal, the biggest source of electricity. To offset emission, India will have to reduce its emission from the power sector. At the Glasgow Summit, India raised its 2030 target from 450 gigawatt. It was earlier 450 gigawatt of renewable energy, but our Prime Minister has announced it will be now 500 gigawatt of renewable energy by the year 2030. It was the announcement by the Indian Prime Minister. And Indian Prime Minister also announced there the One Sun. It is also a very unique project, One Sun, One World, One Grid concept, which is very unique. Under this program, many countries have joined with India. ISA, the International Solar Alliance we have. 70 countries are member countries in the International Solar Alliance, which has its headquarters at New Delhi, India. Under that program, this One Sun, One World, One Grid concept, through which there will be an international grid, and the very large size solar power plants will be installed in different countries, and all the solar power plants will be connected with that international grid, so that the time difference advantage will be taken up. In India, it is night time now, but our US friends, they are just having their morning time, so they will have their power plant which will generate power when India is in the night time, and India will generate power when US there is no sun. So if it is connected with the grid, it's a very ambitious project. Of course, a lot of challenges are there, but Indian Prime Minister has launched that program, and adequate fund has been allocated for such type of projects. And I'm sure our US friend will also come forward to help us in this unique program, One Sun, One World, One Grid concept, so that in future, maybe in 20 years or 30 years time from now, we can have that type of dream project, and which will remove the storage need of the solar power, which is intermittent in nature, which will be not required if we go for One Sun, One World, One Grid concept. So I think since time is short, I'll just touch upon the next one. I'll just touch upon some next one. I'll just touch upon some areas where we need cooperation with the US friends, particularly in the forecast. We are the weather forecast and the forecast of energy from the solar power plant, where we need the support from the US friends, US collaborator. Integration of large size solar power plant in a stable grid, because solar power is very intermittent in nature. So we are putting up 600 megawatt or 700 megawatt solar power plants, which if it is connected with the grid, how stable is the grid? So that is a very complex task. Where we have already collaboration. We are doing a number of projects. Our IITs, I am also involved in that program. IITs are in touch with the US universities, and we are working hard. A number of projects are there on the integration of intermittent solar power with the national grid. The special category pumps, which are also very much required in India, high capacity solar pumps for irrigation purpose. We don't have that. The technology is required. We want to collaborate with the US partners. Storage, which is also very important. The different type of storage of solar energy, not only in battery, lithium-ion batteries and other type of batteries are there, are being developed. So that type of thing, fuel cells. So in these areas, we need support from our US friend. We need collaboration. But in India, one point I must say, a lot of investments are coming up. So any US friends or Indian the people who are listening to this, our webinar, I would request them to jump upon this unique program, because the target is 500 gigawatt, which is very high. And there are a lot of business opportunities, entrepreneurship development will be there. So I think with all this type of thing, research, the collaboration with the US friends, the entrepreneurs who will be investing in the renewable energy sector in India, and the Indian national program, which is very lucrative now with the incentives and other things. I think India will be a leader in the renewable energy program in the world, in the globe, and I'm sure India will be able to achieve their Glasgow target, which the emission target, that the net zero target by 2070, that we are sure will be achieving with all of your help, with all of your assistance, and the government of India's lucrative policy and regulation. Thank you very much for patient hearing.
Thanks, Professor Don Chaudhary, for giving the insight on the country's status with respect to the solar space. And one thing I could surely say that the rooftop solar is surely picking up, and I can vouch for it, that it surely does make a big difference on the electricity bill for an individual. So that's something, and even the OSOWOG, which is the One Sun, One World, One Grid, great challenge, huge challenge. But I mean, that's what this world is looking at today, a number of different challenges that we are facing, but together maybe we can make a difference. Thank you very much, Professor Chaudhary. Maybe you can stop sharing your screen. That's fine. So our next speaker is Charlene Helenga. Charlene Helenga is the president of the Texas Space Authority. It's a nonprofit administration of 71 Texas space programs. And she'll talk a bit more about the programs. And her peers have ranked her as one of the top 3 national 2020 PACE champions. Now, Charlene has got a lot of experience in the legal space on Capitol Hill in DC. Excuse me. She served as the general counsel to House Republican leader, on the minority general counsel to the State Judiciary Committee, the minority counsel to the House Judiciary and Energy Commerce Committee, as vice president and Washington counsel for capital cities and television channels, radio networks. So she's contributed a lot in this space. She served as executive director of the Morton and Angela Tropper Family Foundation in Austin, Texas, where she's helped organize the Startup Foundation. And it grew from 26 million to 62 million. It's just a number exchange, but 26 million to 62 million. Charlene is a member of the Texas Washington.
I believe Mr. Lobo's internet is disturbing a little bit, for which he might have got disconnected, but I'm sure he will be back. But just continuing from where Mr. Lobo was talking about Charlene, I think we will welcome her on board without, taking much more of the time than it has already offshooted. And I request Charlene, thank you so much for being so patient and waiting. And we would request you to start with your presentation. Welcome, Charlene.
Thank you. It is my distinct honor to be here today, and slightly difficult to follow such a previous presentation. Pardon me. I'm excited to hear about the opportunities to collaborate on storage, on technology like solar pumps. There's much our 2 countries can do together, and I hope to see that happen. My expertise is in a program designed to help businesses overcome the barriers to these investments. It's called PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy, and it is a program now available in most of the states in the United States. But the idea is to help property owners, and I realize many of our participants today have industrial properties. So far in Texas, most of the use has been in commercial property, but it is available for industrials, and we hope some of these ideas will be helpful to you today. So the idea is, how do you help businesses increase profits? Well, one way is to sell more stuff, but the other way is to lower costs. And when you lower costs, you increase your net operating income. Everybody wants to do this, but how? And the problem when it comes to equipment that will reduce your energy bills, reduce repair costs, is that more efficient equipment, whether it's solar panels, combined heat and power units, HVAC, even a new roof can be more energy efficient. These are expensive and they're risky loans. And so most lenders want to be paid back in 5 years or less. And that makes a cash flow problem almost insurmountable for most businesses. On top of that, while this equipment will pay for itself in energy savings or water savings, it has a long return on investment. It takes too long for most investors to be willing to pull money out of the business's core capital to make these improvements. So PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy, is a program created by local governments that enable the property owners to move the risk from the company to the land. And the local government holds a lien on the property until the financing is paid off. What happens is lenders then say, oh, now I have a safe opportunity to finance a project. So I will have 100% upfront financing at a reasonable rate, and I will allow this loan to continue for as long as the equipment's useful life. So we are seeing financing go from 5 years to 25, even in some cases 30 years. So in Texas, it's a little bit different in every state. The local county or city can create the program, and businesses or nonprofits with commercial property, multifamily property, so basically apartment units, and industrials can access this financing. It's totally voluntary. And what is happening in Texas because of this new opportunity is that beautiful historic buildings that have been vacant, they're abandoned, they have been uncared for, are now being repurposed. So this 1926 office building in our Panhandle in West Texas is now a gorgeous hotel, very efficient. Every light fixture in this building is a 12-volt LED light, resulting in tremendous energy savings. So here's a visual of what I'm trying to talk about. On the left, with a conventional 5-year loan, you have very high payments for this equipment that creates a significant cash flow hurdle for the business before they have to pay it off before they really can take advantage of the utility savings. With PACE, all we're doing is knocking, I call it the tower of pain. We're knocking it over. And in doing so, there are going to be more payments, but they're smaller. And the utility savings and the avoided repair costs will exceed the repayment costs. So the equipment is installed and the company ends up being cash flow positive. It's a win-win. It sounds too good to be true, but it's working. And what it's doing is removing the barriers to investment. For the first time, businesses can look at the cost of becoming more efficient or the cost of creating their own power as opportunity instead of pain. And the idea is to look out long enough to say, instead of just constantly being run by quarterly profit requirements, to look out and make the investments that are going to strengthen the company. So while I'm talking about a way to make these opportunities affordable for business, I'm also here to encourage you to think long-term about the business and the community. So we've heard of these aspirational goals about becoming more self-reliant in power, to create clean power that increases workers' health. It increases community health. It will increase ultimately the profits of the company because you're creating your own power and you're saving money, and you're able to put that investment back into the business. These are wonderful opportunities, and businesses want to do the right thing. And so when we work together to create the tools to enable that, it's more likely to happen. But there's something else I want to throw into the mix as our two countries work together towards these goals. In the United States, investors are starting to put real pressure on our companies. It's the shortcut term is ESG, stands for environmental, governmental, and social responsibility. And so investors are starting to tell our business owners, if you want us to invest in your business, you need to show us that you are making a commitment and you are delivering energy savings and you are contributing to the environment. That's part of the social responsibility that our investors are starting to require of the United States. So sometimes when property owners come to us and say, we need your help, it's because their customers are telling them, if you want us to buy your products, you need to show us that you are environmentally responsible in creating them. And so to the extent that people on this webinar today are listening, looking for ways to sell more to the United States, becoming conscious of these opportunities and these goals and participating in them can very much create a competitive advantage to you as you sell your products in the United States, because the people who are buying them are increasingly seeing these demands from our investors. So Texas Pace Authority, where I work, is a nonprofit. We administer these programs in Texas. We started 6 years ago with one county. We now, actually, since I provided my bio, we're up to 73, and with one more coming on very soon. So we are excited because this opportunity is growing in Texas, both in rural communities and in urban communities. And so PACE in Texas, you can see our growth. Even through the pandemic, businesses are making these investments, and you can see the different types of property uses. To date, we have facilitated 190 million in new energy efficiency, water efficiency, and renewable investment in our built environment in Texas. And we track the projected savings here. You can see the results of these investments. But every dollar listed here is in a project that will be cash flow positive over the life of that investment. So I encourage you to look for ways to help businesses be able to reach these goals. So we have urban and rural projects. The smallest one is 68,000. The largest is 24 million. And all of them have received 100% financing under this program. So the local government creates the program. The nonprofit administers it at no cost. No taxpayer dollars are used. No government staff is required. The nonprofit does the work. We receive a user fee from the property owners. This is a firewall. We don't develop the deals. We don't provide the money. We don't do the engineering. We want all of those jobs to be created in our private sector, and we want the property owners to have the power to choose who they want to work with, what their projects are going to be, and how they do business. So it's very flexible in the free market, but we do the quality control oversight. For example, this is a 1980s office building. Most of our buildings built in the 80s, the HVAC system needs to be replaced. The lights burn hot and waste energy. Had that company invested that 1.3 million themselves, it would have taken them almost 10 years before they broke even. If they borrowed money from a bank in a traditional 5-year loan, you add the interest payments and the investment is even a worse investment. But with PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy, they are cash flow positive from day one. And because of that, the owners of this building were willing to invest in fixing the HVAC, replacing the HVAC, replacing the lighting. They also got a $30,000 incentive from the utility provider. And we encourage businesses to get every dime they can from every other source to facilitate the financing of these. So we've, and the other thing we're seeing is that PACE is being used to buy older buildings, and when the purchaser is not only raising the capital to buy the building, but also to renovate it. So this empty building is now 2 hotels, high-end apartment lofts, and first floor retail. But to buy it and to use energy efficiency measures in it, they were going to have to borrow $22 million at 15% interest. They learned about PACE. The interest rates for PACE have dropped since this project was done. In addition to all of the energy and water saving annual savings that they received, they dropped their average cost of capital, their interest cost to buy this building by almost 2% by using PACE in their capital stack. So there's a lot of really fun things happening. We are seeing PACE being used for religious institutions. They're interested in solar. This is a historic cotton gin. It is now offices and a restaurant in downtown Dallas, in a historic neighborhood in downtown Dallas. But PACE was being used with local government investment, historic tax credits, opportunity zone funding. So there are lots of ways to put together the money that you need to renovate older buildings or build new buildings properly. And PACE is one option in the United States that India might consider copying, that fills the hole in these capital stacks that in this case, it was a $5 million hole, enabling the renovation of these buildings properly. So, but they're not all big. So we have solar on a feed store, a rural feed store, solar on a small office building, single owner office building. We've seen PACE used on malls across the state, mostly for exterior parking lot lighting, where so much can be saved by going to LED. We've seen vacant, dangerous buildings being turned into housing, for which we have a huge shortage. And this is our industrial project that I want to share with you. This is an example of what I was saying earlier. There's a company in another state in Missouri that wanted to move its business to Texas, and it did site visits, and it found this empty Hager sewing plant. This plant had been empty for 10 years, but it originally was used to create men's suits. The company interested in buying it makes uniforms for sporting activities, sports uniforms, cheerleading uniforms. They told the county, the people who we're selling our uniforms to want us to be more energy and water efficient. And we have to do that in order to sell these are like sports jerseys that are sold to major sporting goods suppliers. They said, we will buy this plant if you will create the PACE program so we can make it more energy and water efficient, because they can't sell their goods until they do that. And so the county created the program. The plant was reopened. It's more energy and water efficient, and the city got 60 new permanent manufacturing jobs in what had been an empty building. I have many more examples, but I am just going to go through them so you can see the kinds of buildings that we are helping restore across the state. There are many resources. I'm happy to share these slides with you. But what I really wanted to say is that when local governments are creative, they can find ways that don't cost taxpayer dollars to help businesses invest. And it results in changes across the world. So I'm honored to be here today and hope that the ideas we share will help both of our countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charlene. Thank you. That was indeed a wonderful presentation. Thanks a lot. I'm sure the audiences have a lot of questions, which we will get to rather shortly. I would request Mr. Lobo. Mr. Lobo, are you here?
Yeah. There was
Yes.
some issue and tried to log off and log in again.
No problem. So, the next speaker, if you can just give a brief introduction, please.
Yes. So our next speaker is Senator Dr. P.K.C. Bose, a hardcore wind energy professional. And Dr. P.K.C. Bose has many first-time hat tricks in his credits. He has successfully commissioned 3 most reputed German corporations in the fields of business in India over a period of close to 3 decades of his professional life. Dr. Bose is a brand ambassador for German Mittelstand companies in India, and he's been the founding managing director of SEW Eurodrive India, Certex India, and Enercon Wind Energy. So Dr. Bose has a lot of a number of achievements to himself, and he's the only Indian in the Senate of Economy as senator in Germany. Dr. Bose is a certified climate reality leadership core and trained under former Vice President Al Gore. Dr. Bose has been featured a number of times in the Forbes magazine, and he's been invited to participate as a VIP guest for the Nobel Prize Forum in 2018 at Oslo. I mean, I can go on and on and on about Dr. Bose, but then I would be eating into his time to kind of give his knowledge in this space. So without wasting a lot of time, I hand over the dice to Dr. Bose.
Good morning and also good evening to all the ladies and gentlemen here. And it's an honor and privilege to be here with all of you. I'm a little bit surprised that I have very less to do with Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, and I have more than I have been associated with the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce. So I first asked Zarina must have done it unintentionally or by mistake. Then I realized that there is a depth in that, which is the renewable energy side. So that's the main reason I'm here. So it doesn't matter whether it is Indo-German Chamber of Commerce or Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. The objective is to how to make our Mother Earth sustainable, how we can reduce the global warming and the climate change. This is the common objective for all of us. Therefore, given the shortest time, I would like to talk to you on 3 fronts. One is the technology and Enercon, and number 2 is the demographic dividend or the advantages of being in India. Number 3 is the challenges in India. So this will help the audience, the international as well as the domestic audience, to get a little bit of insights about wind industry and being in India. Having said that, let me start with Enercon. We are a company established in 1984 in Germany. And so today we are the largest privately owned wind turbine makers in the world. Enercon has some of the very interesting features. To start with, we are the one and the only company who produce the direct drive technology. We have a gearless technology, which is called the direct drive technology with a variable frequency drive, which has many, many advantages compared to a gearbox technology. We produce the largest onshore turbine, which is a 4.2 megawatt and also the 5 megawatt turbine. We are not in near shore, we are not in offshore, we are only onshore. We are still a family owned company having 20,000 plus people working globally with a turnover of 6 billion euros. So the company was established in 1984 in Germany, but today we have manufacturing plants all across the world. So our story in India is we have started our first entry in India way back in 1994. And until 2007, we were number 1 in the wind energy business in India. And 2000, so this was a joint venture company, and we withdrawn from India in 2007 due to some reasons, and we stayed away from India until 2018. And after that, we decided to come to India as our own subsidiary. So this is our second entry to the Indian market, but we have nearly 3.5 gigawatt installation already in India. So these turbines we have installed, which are all almost like now going to complete 25 years. So the India business model we have with a very primary objective of taking the demographic dividend of India. Number one is we looked at India and its potential in terms of the number one is the manpower, skilled manpower. So we have moved our major R&D activities to India. So today we have a wonderful team of 200 people in the R&D center in Bangalore. We have also came up with a very interesting business model, which is supporting to the Self-Reliant India program. So this program is an excellent support to the MSME companies of India. We are a very cash-rich company, but despite of the fact we decided to support the Indian MSME companies, partnering with them. And when we talk about the partnership, it is a long-term contract, not a joint venture. So we have identified the first team of entrepreneurs or technocrats of India in a sleeping village called Erode in Tamil Nadu, the down south of India. And we found they are extremely technically competent people. So we supported them by providing finance as well as the technology, developing them to meet our international standard. So the result is we have an amazingly beautiful factory in the German standard factory we built in spite of the COVID challenges in Europe, which has started the commercial production last month. We have nearly 25 German experts at the moment staying there and supporting the Indian colleagues. So this has given us a lot of confidence that by partnering with this kind of small, medium enterprises, we will be able to achieve two things. Number one is very high commitment. Number two, our own investment will be lesser because they also invested in the project and we also invested. So it's a joint effort, and their extremely high commitment on maintaining the international standard of quality, reliability, and also deliveries. So the first plant is now starting the commercial production. We will be fully operational in this next quarter of 2022. The second plant we have also, it is also coming up in the south of India in Tamil Nadu, the south of India, in a place called Trichy, where we are building our modular steel towers. So this is one of the very unique features of Enercon. That is not only the gearless technology, but we are the only company who built the modular steel tower. We have no concrete or tubular towers. We have only modular steel towers, which you can put it in a container, 40-foot container, and drive to the site and only do the nut bolt assembly, nut bolt technology. So it's much more faster and much more better in terms of many things in cost and so on. So this plant is going to be in starting the production in the second quarter of 2022. And number three is we again found an interesting company who has the expertise of making the turbine blades. These blades are the largest blades ever built in India. This is about close to 90 meters long blades, which will be built in a place called Nellore in Andhra Pradesh. It is again the south of India. So all the three places we have chosen after a lot of deliberations and calculations in terms of logistics and supply chain. So we found that the port near to Nellore called Krishnapatnam port, which is the only port which can handle the largest blade of 90 meters. And our second blade is even more longer. So logistic, we have a very good advantage because from our blade plant, the port is only 60 kilometers distance, and the generator and also the tower can come to this place very easily. So I would also like to share with you that Enercon is the only wind turbine maker having our own ships. We own our own ships, and these are ships run completely with renewable energy. So she came to India first time 3 months back and loaded with blades and sailed to Vietnam. So this is the biggest advantage of us. We have our own logistic systems in place whereby the ship can come directly to the Krishnapatnam port, and the upper deck can be filled with the blades, and the lower deck can filled with generators and towers. So this is the logistic advantages of being in India. So when we talk about the, we wanted to keep India for the next 2 years or 3 years as our global export hub, which means we produce everything in India and ship it around the world. Subsequently, we will develop an India-specific turbine, which we will sell it in the Indian market. But that is our, the second phase of plan. So this is the brief about Enercon and our business plan as far as India is concerned. Now coming to India, as the gentleman talked about India and India's very aggressive plan for the renewable energy sector. You may be aware that in the COP26 in Glasgow, our Prime Minister has made a commitment of installing 500 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2030. This is an absolutely challenging task for all of us. Why? Because I'm only interested to talk at the moment about the wind energy, because I'm not very good at the solar or biomass or hydro projects. Therefore, I can only talk about the wind energy sector. So currently, or last 2 years, if you take it, the India's installation of 2 megawatt, from there achieving 140 gigawatt installation by 2030. Every year you need to install 16 to 18 gigawatt, then only you will be able to achieve 140 gigawatt as per the commitment of the Prime Minister. So how do we do that? This is one of the biggest challenges India has, because from 2 to 18 or 2 to 16 overnight, it is impossible. But there are a lot of opportunities as far as India is concerned. Number one, India doesn't have a repowering policy. If India introduces a repowering policy, it will be absolutely possible to achieve this Herculean task. Currently, we have considered that we have 2 gigawatt installation, and from there going to 18 gigawatt. The best and easy option is to go for a repowering policy. So what is the repowering policy? The best of the sites, Class A wind sites, especially in the state of Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Gujarat, all these states where the turbines are being installed nearly 20-25 years back. These turbines are standing in the best Class A wind sites, but the capacity of these turbines are only 800 kilowatt or maximum 1 megawatt. If we discard all the turbines and put 4.2 megawatt turbine, your direct increase of production will be, increase of power production will be 4 or 5 times more, which itself will take care up to 12 gigawatt installation. So then the remaining is only 6 gigawatt, which is anyway India will be able to achieve, because we have new states, new states like Rajasthan or some of the other states in India. These are still to be explored fully. So therefore, it is absolutely possible to achieve. We have hardly any installation of, or we have hardly explored any offshore market of India. According to the preliminary evaluation, it is being ascertained that nearly 175 gigawatt offshore potential is available in India. This also the country can explore heavily, And that will be another opportunity. So today, India is the fourth largest wind energy country in the world, but we can make it even number 3 position, not to the extent of China or United States, but definitely compared to Germany, which is the third. So if you really look at all these opportunities, the repowering, this is an immediate opportunity available for India. Now, the bigger question here is, what will we do with the old turbines? Since India doesn't have a recycling policy in place, so old turbines which are being removed from the sites, what will we do with these old turbines? And that question has to be answered by the respective authorities in India, because a recycling policy is extremely, because repowering and recycling policies has to go hand in hand. Therefore, India should look at this. Is one of the challenges in India. So when you look at the opportunities available in India in terms of the highly skilled manpower, the ready-made market available in this country, the huge export opportunities available from India, the huge growth opportunities, especially in the market of the Asia Pacific region, that is Japan, South Korea, to Australia, to all these countries, they are all, including Middle East, they are going for a huge transformation, changing from gas or other form of power to renewables, especially wind. So this is another huge opportunity for India. India has a lot of cost benefit in terms of infrastructure, in terms of manpower, in terms of raw material, and so on, because 85% of the raw material for building the wind turbines are available in India locally. And the manpower cost is extremely competitive compared to the Western world. So being in India will always, and the economy is quite consistent, and it will remain consistent. So the new introduction of the round-the-clock renewable energy availability, etc., by the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy is again very much accelerating the interest as far as India is concerned. Of course, there are also many challenges as far as India is concerned, because the regulatory and policies are still not completely in place, which needs to be established. The cohesive approach between all the stakeholders are still missing, which needs to be strengthened. The repowering, as I mentioned, the repowering and recycling policies have to be established. And there are many states still to be ascertain the potential for the wind energy, which is one of the very important factor. And a hybrid policy still to be strengthened as far as India is concerned, especially when it comes to solar and wind. And last but not least, the offshore. And one of the biggest challenges as far as India is concerned, the logistic, which I'm sure that for our 5 megawatt turbine, the blade length is nearly 94 meters. So the logistic is still a huge challenge as far as India is concerned. Our waterways are India, all the 3 sides of India is covered with waterways, but we are still not, if we don't have the efficient waterways available in India. So the infrastructure part is going to be a huge challenge as far as the larger turbines are concerned. So if we really look at the technological advantages, the demographic advantages, and the challenges are lesser. It is only a matter of understanding of the difficulties and fixing it by the policy and regulatory authorities. That is the need of the hour. Once this is in place, I'm 100% sure that there will be much more investment will pour to India, because we have everything available in this wonderful country. So as far as Germany is concerned, especially to just throw a little light on the German investment is concerned in the renewable energy sector, it is again going very, very much on the higher side. And especially the Green Party in place in Germany, the new ministry, they are extremely interested to work, strengthen much more. India has a very strong bilateral tie-up with Germany, and this will further be strengthened. And this will be an absolutely wonderful opportunity for all countries, including the United States, of course. Still, there are so much to do from the US side to India on the renewable sector, especially in the wind energy sector, because many of the US companies are more concentrating on the solar side. But for them, again, there is a huge opportunity for the wind energy companies or the ancillary companies to come to this wonderful country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Bose, for giving an insight on the wind issues in India. And as you mentioned, that there's a lot of policy requirement. But anyway, hope that things will move on and it will improve. We'll be able to have wind in offshore as well. So our next speaker is Dr. Gavin Dillingham. He's the Vice President of Research and leads HARC's energy team. In his role, he also serves as the Director of the US Department of Energy's South Central and Upper West Combined Heat and Power TAP. Dr. Dillingham joined HARC in 2012, where he leads multi-stakeholder efforts focusing on policy and programs to improve the climate resilience of power infrastructure and built environment, and to help usher in the energy transition via a variety of clean energy initiatives. Dr. Dillingham is also a leading efforts to commercialize HARC research with the HARC team, University of Houston and Leahy University. He led the startup of Pythias Analytics Incorporated. Pythias Analytics is a startup company focused on providing climate analytics and scenario planning for the energy sector, something which Dr. Gon Chaudhary spoke about. So Dr. Dillingham received his bachelor's degree from Texas Tech University and his PhD from Rice University. He holds the Climate Change Professional Certification from the Association of Climate Change Officers and the Sustainability Associate from the Institute of Sustainable Professionals. So I hereby give you Dr. Gavin Dillingham.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Sydney, for that introduction. Zarina, would you be able to allow me to share my screen and video? My computer had crashed earlier, and now I'm trying to get back into things.
I think somehow we all are facing these issues.
Yes, I've done that.
Okay. There we go. Yeah, right whenever we were about to get back on, everything decided to stop.
Yeah.
Here we are. Okay. So I'm going to talk. So this is once again a very important opportunity to find ways in which we can collaborate. And what I wanted to talk about really was some of the issues that we're facing on both the decarbonization side as well as the resilience side of things. And so ensuring that we can reduce the carbon emissions that are out there, but then also make sure that we have opportunities to maintain power whenever there's extreme weather events. And that's really one of the key areas we're trying to focus on. And because our understanding and the science indicates that, we're dealing with, climate change that, and a lot of these extreme weather events that are essentially baked in. I usually have a large pie that I show, but with steam coming out of it, but not for this particular case. Anyway, what I want to do today is just kind of cover some of the extreme events that we're seeing, of course, the United States, but then also, we're seeing these globally, and we're seeing significant costs coming to our communities, coming to our economy. And once again, the importance of understanding these extreme weather events that are coming, but taking the appropriate measures. And so a lot of the focus that we take is really looking at microgrids. And so on-site generation systems, looking at a variety of energy resources. So not just solar, not just storage, not natural gas, just natural gas generators, cogeneration, combined heat and power, looking at all those resources to make sure that we have the appropriate power on site, but it's also power that overall provides lower carbon emissions and lower carbon footprint than, say, the typical fossil fuel grid, which traditionally and typically is dirtier than on-site generation. And so just another slide here looking at we're seeing these increased diversity of different types of extreme weather events, diverse and very much an increasing cost and impact of these events, and the importance of having the power systems in place that can mitigate this risk here. Most recently for us in Texas, where I'm located, a most significant event for us was Winter Storm Uri that came about last year that pretty much turned off power in most of Texas, or a majority of Texas, for a rather significant amount of time. And so when we're dealing with extreme weather events, we kind of had this one focus on dealing with extreme heat. We get pretty warm in Texas. We get pretty dry in Texas. And so that was kind of the focus of our power systems. And now we faced this extreme cold event, which indicated to us that, there's multi events that we need to be prepared for. They're compounding events. And so finding those appropriate power systems, once again, that can decarbonize our energy as well as ensure we're resilient is key. Just more on a global level here, this is of course the IPCC report, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, just came out last year. And once again, indicating on a global level, we are seeing higher CO2 concentration. So once again, the importance of reducing this, increases in sea level rise, Arctic sea ice melt, glacial retreat, all these unprecedented events that are leading to compounding effects across the globe, which are leading to more extreme weather events that, I know India has experienced significant numbers of these, especially in flooding, typhoons, et cetera. And, as all of us as kind of members of the globe, we need to all start working together to figure out ways in which we can mitigate these climate risks here. Some of the key drivers for us, of course, is just increasing amount of power outages and decreasing reliability of our power system in the United States and in Texas. And a lot of that has to do with extreme weather events, as well as increasing demand. And when I talk extreme weather, it's not just the chronic or the acute events like a typhoon or like a convection storm, like a hailstorm or a tornado or even flooding, but it's also those more chronic events such as long-term drought and extreme heat and heat waves that can particularly have impacts to thermoelectric power plants, whether that's natural gas or nuclear or coal powered plants. We're seeing a significant impact to those plants. And so once again, focusing on ways in which we can deploy more on-site generation that's equally and more robust, resilient, reliable is going to be one of the key areas. Because one of the other key findings that we see out there is, although the transmission distribution systems on the grid can be very reliable and can be very efficient in providing power, they're also highly susceptible to climate risk. And whether that's extreme heat, whether that's wind events, typhoons, you name it, they can be highly susceptible and cause significant disruptions to our power systems if not properly dealt with. And so once again, pushing to an argument of having more distributed energy resources and a combination of those. And so this slide is actually from the Department of Energy project that was developed looking at resilience of power systems and looking at a variety of different natural disaster events, and then looking at different types of on-site power, whether that's battery storage, biomass, biogas, combined heat and power, also known as cogeneration, distributed solar, rooftop solar, distributed wind, natural gas-based CHP or standby generators, and just looking at those different types of events from flooding to high winds, earthquakes, extreme temperature, snow, ice, and wildfires. And where we're looking at areas where there's nothing in the circle, it's a blank circle, are areas where they seem to be less susceptible to a variety of fuel supply interruptions or damage to equipment or performance limitations or forced shutdowns, et cetera there. And so, and we get a lot of pushback when we start, especially in the United States, and to Charlene's point, when she was talking about ESG goals, environmental, social, and governance goals, there's a lot of concern about continuing to deploy natural gas in the market, especially through on-site generation. But when you do a comparison looking at on-site combined heat and power systems versus, say, a coal-fired system or versus a grid-sized natural gas system, or even in some cases larger wind and solar, CHP can actually have a lower emissions profile over time. As the grid continues to decarbonize, that's going to be less of the case. But at this point, the profile of on-site microgrids can actually have a significant decarbonization, or lesser decarbonization or carbon footprint there. Just real quickly, I keep talking about combined heat and power. Most around the globe, it's known as cogeneration. But when we talk about that, we're talking about an engine and a turbine, or a turbine that works there to generate electricity on site. And that can be natural gas, but it also can be biomass, biogas. It can be hydrogen. It can be renewable natural gas. And I'll go into some of those technologies in a minute. But once again, you're generating fuel on site. And the efficiency benefit and the decarbonization benefit really comes from that heat recovery piece, where you're essentially supplanting the use of other boilers or other types of heating equipment that would be generating additional emissions because they're burning additional fossil fuels there. But those grabbing that waste heat off of that engine turbine can be used for steam, hot water. It can also be used for cooling purposes through an absorption chiller. And we've actually worked with some Indian companies that have developed some very robust absorption chiller technology that's starting to be deployed in the United States that makes us excited to see the opportunity around that, where it's becoming more cost effective and once again, improves the efficiency of operations on a site as well as the resilience on site. Just to point out, these systems can be very small, down to 5 kilowatts up to 300 megawatts or so, depending on the technology that you're looking for. And most importantly, when we're looking at the microgrids here, it's a system that can operate 24/7. It's a system that's resilient, it's reliable. It has a variety of different sources, and some of the work we do at HARC is really optimizing the sizing of these systems, making sure you have the appropriate amount of solar, appropriate amount of storage, combined heat and power, cogeneration, sized appropriately and then operated appropriately to not only provide the needed resource, but then also to ensure that it has the least carbon footprint associated with it. And so finding that balance between the reliability, resilience, and the decarbonization is a key piece to optimize the sizing of these systems here. And then when we talk, and I've kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier, but looking at microgrid technologies, especially with combined heat and power, it can really help deal with some of the intermittent nature of solar and wind resources. It can work whenever, in some cases, storage can be a little more expensive than combined heat and power. And so it can kind of come in and provide that base load need and then complement the solar and wind and storage output that's associated with it as well. CHP can also be very flexible. So if you're looking at grid flexible buildings and looking at the needs to export and import power based on market dynamics, based on costs of electricity, CHP can be very dynamic in that regard and provide that economic benefit associated with better understanding how the market is working. And then CHP and decarbonization, once again, there's a huge push right now out of the Department of Energy looking at a variety of other feedstock resources and the combined heat and power, because once again, there's the understanding of the resilience and reliability, especially when you're looking to reduce carbon footprint of industry and needing that appropriate heat and temperature to do some of these manufacturing processes that that electrification or solar and storage cannot necessarily provide or cannot provide through electrification. So how do we, look at industrial emissions and reduce industrial emissions using on-site power generation, such as cogeneration or combined heat and power? And so looking at uses of hydrogen, whether that's green hydrogen, which is done through renewable energy processes, or blue hydrogen, which is done with carbon capture, utilization, and storage. How do we deploy those types of technologies? How do we look at renewable natural gas? How do we look at biomass, biogas, leveraging what's happening in the food processing industry, leveraging what's happening at wastewater treatment plants to grab that methane instead of venting it or flaring it, using it for purposes to generate power on site. So looking at a variety of these different types of technologies is really key. And the benefit of microgrids is that they can take a variety of different types of fuel stocks based on what infrastructure is available what fuel source is available, and to allow for that overall reduction in emissions and improvement of resilience. And then finally, this is just an example of a local school here in Houston, Rice University, and the example here is just really how combined heat and power, they have a microgrid, they have solar, they have storage, they have combined heat and power, and how they use it to help them reach zero carbon campus goals. And also it was very much demonstrated as a very robust system, resilient system, as a lot of places around Houston were kind of going out of power, losing power during Winter Storm Uri. Rice University and the campuses that had these microgrids were able to continue operations, continue to look at the health and safety of students that were on campus, or ensure the health and safety of students on campus, and make sure that the resources and services were provided there. So, in any case, that was a quick review of kind of where we're looking at and the importance of really thinking about both resilience as well as decarbonization and making sure we have the appropriate balance there. So thank you for the time.
Thanks, Gavin, for that quick review on the microgrids. Of course, CHP is a very good opportunity to work on. In India, we do not require the H part because we have a warm weather anyway. So we're utilizing that heat with a VAM or a VAC to create coal space is something which would be useful in the Indian space. Thanks, Gavin. Okay, so our last speaker for the day is Dr. Jyotir Moyroy. He's the MD and CEO of Green & Co. Limited. He's the founder of Green & Co. He's an advisor to some key energy organizations in UK and India. He has executed over 8 gigawatts of solar PV projects in the last 16 years across the PV project lifecycle in Egypt and the Middle East areas, Asia, and the United States. He has performed techno-commercial due diligence of over 300 million pounds merger and acquisition deals in the new built and secondary solar market. He is a co-author of the UK Solar Standard, IET Code of Practice for the Design, Installation and Operation of Solar Photovoltaic Systems, and a committee member of the IEC and the BSI standards. He has been awarded the Glory of India Award for his bilateral contributions between the UK and India on solar energy. In 2021, he has been selected as a finalist of the Great British Entrepreneur Award under the sustainability category. So I here give you Dr. Jyotir Moyroy.
Thank you very much, Sydney, for your nice introduction, and thank you, Zanina, for inviting for this event. And good afternoon or good evening, everyone in India, and good morning in US. I have shared my screen, and what I'll talk you through about climate change or climate emergency, and what are the new green technology development focusing more on energy storage and solar. So a little bit about our introduction, who we are. The team that we have within Green & Co. Comes with a lot of operational excellence, with over 10 gigawatt of utility scale solar projects, mainly in Northern Hemisphere. I will skip that bit. Mr. Lolo already has invited and introduced myself, but the few technologies that we have developed, one of them is AI and machine learning driven data analytical platform for optimizing operational solar assets. And that has resulted quite significant benefit in the market, and particularly one portfolio that we have looked at in India, not just from the generation point of view. I think Mr. Cole had mentioned about 3 E's in the beginning, and I guess we are covering 2 E's here. It has huge economic impact when it comes to optimization and gaining more interest from green investment portfolios. It's not only create more green investment, but create more green jobs. It's kind of circular economy comes into picture. And other aspects, it's creating this energy efficient system, which is solar system, even more energy efficient. So creating solar energy more energy efficient, create more CO2 offset. And just for that portfolio we have looked at, it has offsetted over 33,000 tons of CO2. That's creating environmental impact. And while largely supported by different UK government, British High Commission, Department of International Trade, and last year we have been enlisted into UK-India Green Business Portfolio companies of 25 companies from UK and India. What we do, mainly solar, any form of solar, whether that is utility solar PV or commercial industrial solar or floating solar, and EV charging infrastructure, but not just EV charging infrastructure. The power that comes to charge the car, it has to come from renewable energy source. So that then only we can say that we are making net zero transition towards decarbonizing transport sector. And when it comes to battery storage, it could be just standard battery storage or integrating with solar PV, more of a hybrid format, PV and wind. Very quick snapshot of our projects and feedback. Footprint, we have done over 4 gigawatt of services in these different service verticals that we do in last 4 years. And we mainly work with institutional investors, international developers, and some asset owners. So the debate that I always ask myself, whether it's a climate change or is it climate emergency? I would pick this is an emergency. And saying this happening across the globe, we couldn't stop the fire that we have seen last year in Australia. No rains for months and months in Africa or in the US, flood in the UK. And this picture actually is taken from, if you recall, tsunami that struck Chennai in 2004. And I'm lucky standing in front of you because the day in the morning that happened, few hours ago, I was there literally in that middle of that place. So I could have died. I started my life in coal. I used to be a scientist in one of the coal research institute of CSR labs in India. So that has to change. 20 years ago, I made that transition from coal to renewable energy. What I have seen in last about 20 years, it's promising, but it also not breaking in many times. So what we look at next, not to look back what we have achieved from renewable perspective into this new technology market. I wouldn't call it renewable as a new technology anymore. It's part of the energy mix. For example, the renewable energy mix in the national grid we have in the UK, nearly in good sunny and summer days, nearly 50% comes from renewable. It's only very little comes from coal at the moment. But what we look at, what are the different new technologies would drive, particularly for solar, and I'll touch this little bit about on the EV charging side. So digitization of operational assets, that AI and machine learning algorithm and the outcome that I shared earlier. We look at very briefly about integrating more solution-based approach, meaning integrating solar and energy storage for creating some business opportunities for different commercial and industrial space, and particularly focusing on their energy consumption and reduction of their operational cost. And like I said, when we talk about EV, where the electricity is coming from, and then obviously hydrogen is one of the big topic this day in the market. So a little bit about our digital platform that we have created. The algorithm that we have developed, they have been developed based on some academic research world, and it has been validated in real world. And there are multiple projects we have done in India, in other part in Europe. And the objective really is, if we see different challenges in the process or in different projects, if we are an expert, our job would be to make it simplified. And that is exactly what we're trying to achieve. So this is not just a software, it's not just a tool. It's a systematic approach that we take by using different high-tech elements, but also driven by human intelligence. So what it does is ultimately improve the overall efficiency of the system. How do we do it? By taking existing operational data of the plant, and we do a very much granular level condition monitoring and health check. And the outcome of that exercise gives an input to the asset owner or the investors to optimize their process and take more informed financial and commercial decision going forward, or financial and technical decision going forward. This is just a snapshot of the dashboard of some of the outcomes in terms of looking into very granular level at the individual inverter level, or even looking into individual string level in a heat map. And just to give you a snapshot of if we see any loss mechanism in a plant, where those losses are coming from. There's more granular, more digital platform that gives a lot of visibility and a lot of asset performance management optimization exercises for the asset. And once you overperform from your expected generation, you gain more interest from your lenders, and that creates more opportunity to reinvest into a new project. We know rooftop project or commercial industrial solar project, but the question is, it's not just a solar project, but more of a solution-based approach by integrating energy storage to it. And how do we do it? By knowing really exactly the load profile of that particular customer, and find the sweet spot where you wanted to invest and how much capacity you wanted to invest on for solar. Doesn't matter if you have a massive bigger roof and you wanted to deploy all to it. It may increase additional capex, but that may not actually fit well with your demand profile. So creating that sizing element, and then you add battery storage to it by looking into what would be your surplus electricity from solar going into grid, and what size of battery that you want to invest. So creating that commercial model based on your demand profile. So that's the exercise that we are doing quite regularly. And what we see in particularly in the UK and rest of the other part in Europe, that purely because of fulfilling their net zero target, particularly C&I customers are driving towards this particular area. Of course, climate element is one factor, but their OPEX reduction is the key driver for them. If I charge my car, and if I would like to think that driving a green car, yes, fantastic, brilliant, but where the electricity is coming from? Is the power green to my green car? And most of the time answer is no. So that is why a couple of years ago, we came up with this solution, and it is like a skeleton that we have prepared. Concept is renewable source of electricity, charge the battery to your vehicle. And it could be a rooftop solar, or it could be a carport system, depending on the project, depending on the constraint that you have. And the type of charger, again, it depends whether you wanted to have a DC fast charger, which largely required for larger vehicles. But if you are charging at your domestic properties, you may not need actually expensive high capacity DC fast charger. You probably need a 3 kilowatt or 7 kilowatt AC charger, which you will be charging at your doorstep overnight. And then adding energy storage as an optional element, depending on, again, the application. So we have done one pilot project in India last year under a bilateral program between UK and India, a program called Innovating for Clean Air project in Bangalore. And this particular charging station is currently operating for nearly 1 year now in ISC campus in Bangalore. And it is not just actually creating a project, it's creating more environmental impact. Like I said, EV charging and decarbonizing the whole value chain of the transport sector, but also create local job and help sustainable ecosystem in the local market. This particular project, probably you can see people wearing masks. It is actually had happened in the middle of the pandemic. And all of these actually was done sitting literally from this room without a single visitor on site, and it's perfectly operating well. How that happened is purely because of partnership that we have established. Vikram Solar, who is our module partner in this project, FEMA or ABB back then, and Tata Power and other three-wheeler vehicle, Transvan is a locally made product. They are available in Bangalore. Another case study from the UK. This is a feasibility project that we have done for a global e-commerce company. They are trying to do exactly what I said, is transit towards the net zero, but also reduce their OPEX. And what we have done different model for them just to see which one would be more commercially attractive model by looking into different generation profile and battery storage and number of EVs that can actually fit in and creating different scenarios that how much percentage that they would be completely dependent on solar, or how much percentage that they need to increase the number of fleets need to get electricity from grid. And we are currently working with few last mile logistic vehicle companies, and the target really is commercial industrial customer, airport authorities, government offices, and other universities or domestic customers. The next technology we wanted to touch base about hydrogen. And it has to be, obviously, if there's the different challenges we'll be facing, it has to be green hydrogen if we really wanted to see the transition happening in this particular case. This is just a case study project I would like to present here, which we have done quite some time ago in 2012. And the concept is that electricity comes from solar PV, goes to electrolyzer, and then compress up to bottling them, that green hydrogen for multiple applications, whether that goes into fuel cell, or it goes to hydrogen refueling station for transportation sector, or it goes to CNG engine or CHP, or it provides grid balancing services for the grid utility network. It's just a conceptual project, pilot project, and there's a lot of activity happening in different markets at the moment. So challenges and opportunities. We have heard a lot of challenges, but question is, those challenges, you put all those challenges into one bucket. And if you put all those challenges for this climate emergency that we are seeing across the globe, which one is greater? Definitely the climate emergency is greater. So the opportunity is greater in that sense, more than challenge, and particularly for the Indian solar manufacturing sectors or in other project companies that they are developing. This is just a snapshot that what had happened in the past in different markets, and the projection for going forward 2030 or 2050 is looking even greater. And to do that, there's a significant amount of investment is happening. And I can tell you, working in this particular field for nearly 2 decades, there's a shift, what I can see, for these investors or developers or asset owners buying module from India. So there's a great potential, and there are different policies government of India has deployed, PLI scheme and other schemes to encourage local manufacturing or Atmanirbhar Bharat. That is absolutely right fit to the global need at the moment. With this, I'd like to stop here, saying that opportunity is much greater than the challenge that we are seeing, and it's up for the grab. Thank you.
Thanks, Jyoti, for that quick review on the different technologies that you spoke about and what is there in future. We have a few questions, but the challenge is that we've also overrun on time. So for all the questions that have come up, to those people who raised the questions, we'll send those questions to the participants, to the speakers. And once they revert back to us, we will surely give you the answers back, because we are running out of time. And I mean, we've actually exceeded the time. So may I request, Mr. Charger, the Vice President of IICC, to kindly give the vote of thanks, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Indeed, it was a most wonderful presentation that we all got to see and obviously learned quite a bit. Thank you, Mr. Lobo, for your wonderful moderation of the session. I'm afraid Mr. Charger has had a certain sudden death in the family, due to which he is not being able to join us, and he's had to rush out of town. So he's really apologized on behalf of himself to everyone, because you can't obviously gauge death and emergencies. So I thank you all on behalf of IICC, on behalf of our regional president, Mr. Anup Acharya, on behalf of our executive committee, all our members here, as well as also our national team and the entire IICC team to begin with. We are extremely happy that you all did give us so much of time and insight into this much relevant topic in today's time. And we are very sure all the audience who has stuck by with us for so long, we thank you very much. But as Mr. Lobo very correctly pointed out, we are way over time. So I would request everyone to be kind enough to send me their questions. I will surely forward it to all our respected speakers. And I'm sure once I get a reward back from them, I will be able to sufficiently and, effectively answer your questions and clarify your doubts, and maybe also create a line of communication directly. So thank you, everyone. Good night. And what can I say? It was a wonderful session. Thanks so much.
I'd like to conclude, Zarina. I'd like to conclude that since Mr. Jajar is not there, that thanks to everybody present and someone who is not present, that's our president, Mr. Anup Acharya. He had been very proactive since the time he took over as the president, and he's trying to make it happen over here. And to all the members who have anyways have contributed to that. Thanks to you, to Lakshmi, and all the people who were there. And the speakers, wonderful insights with facts and figures. It was very, very educative stuff. And I hope and pray that all our future webinars, and we have a physical of them or some in blended mode, and we can take this really forward. Thanks, Zarina, again. Thanks for coordinating this. So, Mr. Lobo, for making it happen.
On behalf of the national body of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, I thank everybody out here for taking the trouble and coming in, giving us their presentations. They were very enlightening and very informative. And I'm sure it will go a long way to help our chamber members to comply with the environmental issues that we face and to use the technology to develop that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone. Special thanks to my team member, Miss Lakshmi Roy, who actually helped me put this together. And of course, all of you sirs at the executive body as well as the councils. Thank you very much for all your support. And I wish you all a very good night and good evening. Thank you very much. Wish you a good day.